There are 51 fully evolved fire types in Pokemon. Let's rank all of them right now in the context of competitive singles. At the very bottom of the list, it is with a heavy heart that I must put forth Magcargo as the worst of all fire types. Now, Magcargo is probably the most universally beloved fire type in the series. He's the most politically successful fire type in the series, with many accolades to his name in that arena, which is a battlefield in its own right. Unfortunately, in the world of Pokemon combat, Magcargo is a low-end creature. Fire-Rock dual typing is disastrous, leaving you wide open to times 4 super effective ground and water type attacks. If Magcargo comes into contact with a little bit of mud, he will perish immediately. The same will happen if a droplet of water comes his way. This is not good. These are things that we interact with frequently. Ground and water type attacks are very common. Terrible weaknesses to have. Weakness to rock is almost just as bad, leaving you vulnerable to stealth rock and the very common rock type coverage. You're also weak to fighting, another attacking type on like every team ever. So these terrible weaknesses are very difficult to overcome, and Magcargo simply does not overcome them, with underwhelming stats as well. A 120 base defense sounds okay, but with only a measly 60 base HP, and weaknesses to the most common physical attacking types in the game, Magcargo is not functional as a physical wall whatsoever. The best Magcargo has going for it is access to okay utility options like Stealth Rock and Stab Lava Plume, which can spread some burn. Magcargo perhaps can also use Shell Smash to boost itself up, but that doesn't even really work. Your 90 base special attack is not good enough, and the 30 base speed is a real death sentence. After a Shell Smash, you are scarcely even outrunning Furret. I think Furret might still be faster, and boy does that not bode very well for Magcargo. But Magcargo's place is not on the battlefield. Magcargo's place is behind a desk, overseeing greater things. Some people are not meant for the front lines. They're meant to exist behind the surface, pulling the strings like a puppet master. This is a horse that was not meant for the racetrack, let's put it that way. Up next we have Colossal, who many have pointed out is extremely similar to Magcargo, with the same exact fire-rock typing, the same ability flame body, and the same defense and speed stats, 120 and 30 respectively. Colossal is a Pokemon that wears his influences on his sleeve. What Pokemon can say they are not influenced by Magcargo, at least a little bit ideologically, but Colossal takes the similarities a step further, and yet improves upon them. Colossal is slightly better than Magcargo, with a higher HP stat of base 110. Some different abilities like Flash Fire, which has some merit for fire immunity, and Steam Engine, which raises speed by 6 stages if struck by a water or fire move. There's something there that's valued in the eyes of some. Colossal also has access to Rapid Spin for further utility and Spikes as well. So these options are a little bit better than Magcargo, making it slightly better on the battlefield. However, artistically speaking, Colossal is a bit devoid of spirit, a little bit of a cheap copy of the much better masterpiece. However, that's more subjective, and it's not a list about artistic merit, it's about battle combat prowess in competitive singles, isn't it? I do think Colossal has a pretty cool visual design and name, though I will say I'll give some respect there. Up next is Heatmore, flaming anteater character. I always forget this fella exists. I do like it though, good visual design. Regrettably, not a very powerful fella. This is designed as a weird mixed attacker, and it does have an impressive move pool. It has the ability Flash Fire, which is a good ability, but it's just a weird one. It's very slow with only 65 base speed. Its offenses aren't even that great. Only 105 special attack, so there's only so much you can take a good move pool like this with stats that aren't very suitable for a mixed attacker. It's just slow and weak, which is a terrible combination. Plus it's frail as well on top of that. It doesn't even have defensive merit, really. Just a bad Pokemon, regrettably. Up next we've got Turtonator, an odd Pokemon. Great name, great visual, but sort of a weird one gameplay design-wise. It's a Fire Dragon type, which is a good typing. Dragon cancels out your water weakness, that's always nice, means you can take Scalds and not worry about being burned either because of the fire burn immunity. They're also good stab types. Dragon hits things neutrally. Fire is good enough damage versus Fairy and super effective against Steel. They're pretty complementary. But Turtonator is a physically defensive Pokemon. It doesn't really work as a physical wall. It doesn't quite have the move pool for it. Its best set is a Shell Smash set, which is a strange choice when you are so slow with a measly base 36 speed. Now, Turtonator does have a decent attacking move pool with options like Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, and Flash Cannon to hit Fairy types. Its typing does allow it ample opportunities to click Shell Smash, I suppose, but it is a little bit weak, and your main stab nerfing your special attack, Draco Meteor, doesn't bode well for a consistent sweep either. So it's just a weird Pokemon that's got defensive stats, but its best set is an offensive one that isn't very good, because it's too slow and weak to really pose much of a threat. Plus it nerfs itself with its best attack. But Turtonator is sort of a weird creature, isn't it? I always forget this fella exists, and then I see it and I am reminded of its existence and enriched for a moment, until it eventually inevitably will fade away. Even now, I know for a certainty that at the moment I'm acknowledging the existence of Turtonator and it is in front of me, but I know that eventually that memory will fade until I see the image of it again and it comes back to me. But tomorrow I'll probably stop thinking about Turtonator again. But maybe in saying this I will remember Turtonator purely for the fact that I've been commenting on my forgetting of it in this moment, which actually would enhance the memory of it in future. Up next is Hyrule, who's a lion-based creature. It is a fire normal type Pokemon, which is not a great typing, but I suppose it's not completely terrible either. This fella has average stats and pretty terrible abilities too. It has Unnerve to prevent berry eating, Rivalry for more damage against same gender but less damage against opposite gender. That can't be worth it. That can't be worthwhile. And then Moxie to increase attack on KO, even though it's not even a physical attacking Pokemon with a measly 68 base attack. So this fella kind of just has no ability, regrettably. But it's above the previously ranked fire types because it is at least fast and has special attack. Base 106 speed is okay. And it can click Fire Blast and stab Hyper Voice. It has Will-O-Wisp as well to burn enemies. These are things that can achieve some value, unlike prior Pokemon that will probably die before they can achieve value. At least Pyro can outrun some stuff and click Fire Blast. There are many better Pokemon at doing so, but still. We can acknowledge the basic strengths of Pyro. Every time I say bad things about Pyro and I call him boring and I say that there's no discernible distinct traits whatsoever and he's a weird looking lion, people get upset with me and the Pyro superfans come out of the woodwork and they say that I should take it back. So I do take it back. I take all of that back. None of that's true. Pyro is excellent, actually. I see a lot of value in Pyro as a stripped back abstraction of what it means to be a lion and also have flaming abilities. Up next is Rapidash. Somehow in my head I thought that Rapidash was better than this, but if you really evaluate it and look at it, this is an extremely underwhelming fire type that doesn't do much. It was released all the way back in Gen 1 where it wasn't great there, and it hasn't received any notable buffs or much to do in later games. This fella is a middle-of-the-road physical fire type. It has 100 attack, 105 speed. It's not the worst in the world, but it's really unremarkable. The Pokemon is very frail, and its move pool is also not that impressive for a physical attacker. It relies heavily on recoil moves. Flare Blitz is the main form of Fire Stab, and that just doesn't bode very well. Rapidash does not stick around long, and to begin with, it's very frail, and recoiling yourself is not going to be that fantastic. Wild Charge is also one of your only other coverage options, which also has recoil on it. At least later in the series, they did give it high horsepower, acknowledging that it is a horse, which is useful in some circles, and a pretty good form of ground coverage too, but overall just a bad physical attacking fire type, with little merit. Up next is Flareon, a Pokemon that I believe has been treated unfairly in its life. Since the beginning, Flareon sort of didn't make any sense as a fire type, with a great attack stat and special defense stat. It's a strange combination of attack and special defense being its primary stats. In the first 3 generations, fire-type attacks could only be special, so the physical attack stat here felt like a bit of a waste. Plus, Flareon didn't even get great physical moves to take advantage of that attack static. It's like double edge and body slam and such, so it felt odd. And even in early games, Flareon was always outclassed by other fire types. In Gen 1, there's Moltres. In Gen 2, there's Typhlosion and Houndoom and stuff. In Gen 3, you got Charizard and Moltres again. Even Blaziken's better than you as a mixed attacker. In Gen 4, the physical special split happened, but it was too late. Flareon suffered from the addition of Stealth Rock to the game, hurting its chances to hit the field. It's a weird, bulky, fire-type attacker with not enough physical attacks to take advantage of its high stat. It's too slow to pose a threat as well, plus it's a weird special defense wall, which doesn't even really make any sense with its toolkit. Flareon was undercooked from the beginning, where it's a concept that doesn't really result in any way to exist competitively. All throughout history, it has been outclassed by other fire types. I'll put it above Hyrule, though, because it has Flash Fire for fire immunity. It has the options of Wish Protect, allowing it to have some Cleric support. It's got some okay attacking options. There's perhaps ZU viability in the cards, but Flareon sure has had a tough go of it, and is a consistent reminder that the universe is, at times, cruel and uncaring. Up next is Centiskorch. I've always been fond of this one visually, a beautiful, flaming centipede. But Centiskorch has much to contend with in the game of life. Firebug typing has worked on other Pokemon, but other Pokemon have much to make up for the shortcomings of the typing. I don't know if Centiskorch can say that it does. A Firebug typing leaves you wide open to Rock-type attacks with ×4 weakness. It is imperative that you wear the boots to contend with the rocks, and how can boots fit on hundreds and hundreds of legs? It just doesn't add up. Centiskorch has Flash Fire, granting fire immunity, but at the end of the day, this is a slow Pokemon with a very exploitable typing, and overall average traits in terms of its stats and move pool. It has decent attacking options. Fire Lash is quite a good one. An 80 power fire type attack with a 100% chance to lower defense. That's a very good attack. Leech Life is good. Bug Stab, Knockoff, and Power Whip are good coverage. 115 attack is also okay, but these strengths are not enough to make up for the shortcomings Centiskorch must contend with. A measly 65 speed and a typing that leaves you wide open to very common attacks, and not that much to really show for those shortcomings. Up next we have the Camel. Camerupt. Can we get a round of applause? I love Camerupt. Camerupt is excellent. It's a fire ground type, which is an intriguing typing. In some ways, it's good. You're actually neutral to rock, making you a rare fire type that can switch in okay on stealth rocks and take rock type attacks even. Fire and ground are both good offensive types. Camerupt can also say that it has nice immunities. It's immune to burn from Will-O-Wisp, Thunderwave, and electric type attacks in general. So there is some value to a fire ground typing. On the flip side though, that ground weakness and ×4 water weakness are a problem. And the fact that Camerupt is so slow with a base 40 speeds, even lower than many of the Pokemon discussed so far, does leave it open to much offense. Also, its stats are pretty bad, with only 70 base HP, 70 defense, 75 special defense. It doesn't even really have great bulk to make up for its low speed and common weaknesses. Amazingly though, Camerupt in early generations carved out some niches for itself because of those immunities giving it entry points, and then having the offensive power of Explosion and just the stab damage of a big Fire Blast or Eruption or Overheat to get things going. It's a common abuser of Toxic as well, because Toxic happens to hit many of its switch-ins. You can't really switch a Steel type into this, can you? Because it's fire ground, it's threatening it twice over. So there's that. It also has access to Stealth Rock, which is cool and valued. So there's niche uses for this in Gen 3 and 4 OU, because sometimes its typing allows entry points against things. But there's only so far you can go with that. In modern times, these stats just aren't good enough. Having Stealth Rock is no longer much to write home about, and Camerupt just has little value, regrettably. I almost forgot to mention the ability Solid Rock, which is also okay, making super effective attacks deal slightly less damage. That's alright, but not gonna really save your life that much when your bulk is already so terrible. Camerupt is valued, but regrettably not very powerful on the battlefield. Up next we have Oricorio, a delightful little bird with many different forms, one of them being the base form, wherein it is a fire-flying type. Oricorio does not look like much, and it isn't much, to be clear, with dreadful stats, its highest being 98 special attack, which is not great. A fire-flying typing, which has many issues. And when it released in Gen 7, it was truly awful, having nearly no competitive value, but in Gen 9, Oricorio actually received a significant buff. They gave this fella the new option of Quiver Dance, one of the best boosting moves in the game, boosting special attack, special defense, and speed by 1 in a single turn, allowing for incredible snowball potential. And the move Revelation Dance is interesting as well in how it interacts with Terra. It is a 90 power move that varies based on your primary type. It basically operates as a catch-all stab move for the different forms. In the base form, this is a fire type attack, but when you terrestrialize, it will change into a different type, which is really good actually. It's one of the better Terra interactions in Gen 9. Sort of like a better version of Terra Blast. So thanks to that, and also Terra and allowing Quiver Dance to be more effective, Oricorio got way better in Gen 9 and punched above its weight in many cases. I think it was previously ranked in higher tiers. All of its different forms have also had pretty good success considering how bad their stats are. But at the end of the day, the stats are very bad, and that is a significant shortcoming, even with Terra and Revelation Dance and Quiver Dance. You are still only a little bird in a big world, and it is a big world out there, Oricorio, and you best be careful, because there's big elephants and stuff that exist. There's big great neck giraffe, Raikou giraffes and things, and Iron Jugulus and people like this that are going to kill you if you go to the wrong area. So you should be careful and not go to places where great creatures are doing battle, probably. Up next we have Embor, Fire Pig character, starter Pokemon. Embor is a fire fighting type, which is a great offensive type combo, very nice, very complementary. Embor's stats are also okay. 110 HP is good, 123 attack is good, but Embor suffers a lot from a low speed stat. That's its biggest drawback, and it is competing with 2 other fire type starters with the same dual type combo that are faster. It's a bit of a death sentence to just have 2 peers that are faster than you, and speed is what you want on a Pokemon like this that is a mixed threat with good offensive stabs. You don't really want to be slow. I suppose if Embor has anything to set itself apart from its fellow firefighting starters, it's the ability Reckless, which grants bonus damage to recoil moves, 1.2x damage, giving it a very hard-hitting Flare Blitz with some pretty nice breaking potential with a very solid 123 base attack. It also has Sucker Punch for some priority to make up for its low speed at least, and in lower tiers, Embor can be a solidly functional mixed attacking wall breaker. And even a knockoff version of those superior mixed attacking brothers is still more functional than some of the lower end fire types in the universe. So Embor is not completely dreadful or anything, but it is still far away from the higher competitive tiers. But I've heard that pigs are very intelligent animals, so hopefully he can come up with some scheme to increase his position in the world. Maybe Mega Embor will save him when Gen 10 comes around, or Champions, or wherever that will be usable. Time will tell whether the pig can advance in society. Up next is Magmortar, who is a hand cannon reminiscent of Mega Man or somebody like that. Magmortar is a mono fire type with a good 125 base special attack. There's merit to a thing like that. It also has a decent 83 base speed, and with 95 attack as well, it can be a mixed attacker. Has options such as Cross Chop for mixed coverage. It has Knockoff and Thunderbolt and a decent offensive move pool, allowing it to be a pretty decent offensive Pokemon in lower tiers throughout the years since its release in Gen 4. Regrettably though, it is a rather unimpressive fire type in the grander scheme of things. 83 speed is better than some and sort of serviceable in lower tiers with that special attack, but in the big leagues that will not cut it, unfortunately. Flame Body is not a very good ability on this, more of a defensive ability. Magmortar would really appreciate something to help its damage output rather than Flame Body, I think. Vital Spirit is a bit more useful maybe for sleep immunity, but simply stay awake, Magmortar, simply stay awake. I don't really like Magmortar, and I can't put my finger on why. Something about the visual doesn't do it for me. Weird looking, kind of plain in-game, Flame Body, boring. Magmortar means very little to me. It means very little to me. I'm sorry. Up next is Delphox, a fire-type starter Pokemon and an anthropomorphic fox magician character. Delphox has always been a weird one. I mean, Fire Psychic, not a great typing to start off with. You're weak to so many things. Rocks and dark and ghost attacks, which are incredibly common. Water attacks, ground attacks. Bad weaknesses, very bad weaknesses. Delphox also has pretty average stats. 114 special attack is okay, but nothing incredible. Delphox has never been great, but I would put it above the prior fire types so far. His 104 base speed is above average. Outrun on those base 100s is good, and it has a decent attacking move pool with Nasty Plot to boost itself up, Encore as well. For some utility, it has Will-O-Wisp, Calm Mind as an alternative boosting move. It's got good stab. Psy Shock with a stab boost on it is nice to power through special walls. I believe you also get Dazzling Gleam for fairy coverage. There's value to a thing like that. Delphox is not very good, especially in the grander scheme of fire-type special attackers. In fact, it's rather low-end. But it is a better and more functional Pokemon than the prior fire types mentioned so far. Up next is Salazzle, an intriguing creature. An interesting design. It's a poison fire type, which is a good typing offensively. Fire covers the steel types that poison cannot attack. Also hits other things neutrally. They're pretty complementary. Salazzle is also quite fast, with 117 base speed. 111 special attack is serviceable considering. And Salazzle also has the ability Corrosion, meaning that it can actually poison steel types and poison types. It can poison anything regardless of its typing. A very cool ability and a very unique effect. So this gives Salazzle a bit of merit. It also has Nasty Plot for a bit of boosting. Can be hard to find Nasty Plot opportunities, but if you can squeeze one in, it could win the game. Salazzle's biggest downfall, though, would be its frailty. It's very frail with 60 defense and special defense and only 68 HP. And it's not quite fast and threatening enough to really make up for that. It's not one-hitting the absolute entire world, and often will find itself failing to hit a one-hit KO and then being revenge struck back, especially considering its myriad weaknesses. There is merit to a thing like Salazzle, but generally ends up in lower tiers, not a fantastic competitive Pokemon or anything, but at least it has some unique flair. Up next is Mega Camerupt. Can we get a round of applause? Mega Camerupt is a very cool design, love it. The volcano erupts. But for what? Mega Camerupt seems pretty cool when you first look at it. Stats are very much improved. 145 special attack is great. Improved bulk. The ability Sheer Force is great offensively as well. 1.3x damage. 2 moves with secondary effects, cancelling out the secondary effects. That's a huge damage increase. And Camerupt has plenty to take advantage of it, like Fire Blast, Earth Power, etc. The thing is that Megas come with an inherent opportunity cost, and that is that you can only have 1 Mega per team. And there's no real way that Mega Camerupt would be the Mega of choice in OU. Perhaps on some niche teams, occasionally, but the fact that it is so slow is still such a terrible shortcoming. It is difficult for this to ever pose a threat to things, because it's going to move second, and you may deal significant damage with this, but you always have to tank a hit to do so, and it's not like you're so sturdy that that's fine. You're actually not even that bulky for a Mega, to be honest. You have improved bulk, but not by much. You're also ×4 weak to water and weak to ground, and vulnerable to big neutral hits, which are everywhere. Mega Camerupt has much to overcome, and I fear it is too much. Still, though, it can be used as a niche wall breaker, I believe. The Trick Room allows it to function much better. The Trick Room is limited in how great it is in singles. Camerupt is a mid-tier Mega, which is a noble position to be in, I would say. The lower tiers need Megas too. And Camerupt is just happy to be there. He's got a great attitude about the whole thing. A very positively minded Pokemon. Some call him enlightened. Up next is Typhlosion, a Gen 2 starter Pokemon. An intriguing fellow. Typhlosion may not have the greatest stats around, but 100 base speed is decent. 109 special attack is okay as well. The ability Flash Fire is great, and Typhlosion also has access to Eruption, which can achieve an incredible 150 base power if you are at full HP. So Typhlosion has this nice wall-breaking potential that gives it value in the middle tiers. Choice Scarf Typhlosion with Eruption is a nice late-game cleaner. Many of those generations just have okay move pool options otherwise, like Focus Blast for some coverage. At the end of the day, though, Typhlosion is rather middling in its stats. 109 special attack is okay, but not great. You're really relying on Eruption, which can be a little bit inconsistent, as it is a move that's power is dependent on your health. If you get hit, Eruption will no longer deal as much damage, will it? Typhlosion is average all around and will be forgotten by the history books. So I hope he lives life to the fullest while people still remember him. Up next is Hisuian Typhlosion, a new form of Typhlosion introduced in Legends Arceus that became available in Gen 9 with Pokemon Home. I have often maligned Hisuian Typhlosion for being given the boring ability Frisk, which is way worse than Flash Fire. And this may seem like it would lead to Hisuian Typhlosion being the inferior form, but at the end of the day, simply having a Fire Ghost typing makes it better, I would say. Ghost typing offers many benefits defensively, granting immunities to normal and fighting, as well as stab Ghost type damage, enhancing your defensive and offensive presence considerably. Typhlosion Hisui also has a higher special attack stat of 119, at the cost of 5 lower base speed, but this results in a superior Pokemon probably. You have Infernal Parade as well, a 60 power ghost special attack that has 30% burn chance and also the Hex effect, double damage against statused enemies. And that's a great attack actually, a signature move of Hisuian Typhlosion. So Hisuian Typhlosion ends up slightly higher ranked than regular Typhlosion in the PU tier, but overall still not a very good Pokemon in the modern climate with average stats and many shortcomings. Up next is Houndoom. Every dog has its day. Great visual design. A hellhound with horns and a sinister appearance. It's a dark fire type, which back in the day when it came out was unique and gave it some value. Houndoom was one of the better dark type special attackers in early Pokemon, really making a name for itself in Gen 3 as a unique pursuit trapper upon receiving the ability Flash Fire. Houndoom is a rare good switch in against Gengar in that generation, with burn immunity and fire immunity helping it out considerably, and then having Pursuit, which in Gen 3 is a special attack, to trap and eliminate the ever-nefarious Gengar. Houndoom also had decent mid-tier viability beyond that throughout the years, with its options like Nasty Plot and decent stab moves, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, etc. assisting it. Flash Fire also just a generally good ability. Houndoom has really fallen off in recent years though. Its stats are no longer that impressive. These were good stats back in the day, to be honest. Now not so much, and Houndoom has achieved the dog days of its life. The dog days are coming, and they won't be kind to Houndoom. But this dog is getting old, and who is more deserving of a rest than Houndoom? He did have his day, and that day is ended, and most dogs understand that they will have their day, but once it ends, you can't hope to have another day. That would be greedy. Other dogs need their days, and it's not all about you. Dogs are generally selfless, and they understand a thing like that, so Houndoom's fine with this position in the ranking, and takes it in stride. Up next is Tauros Paldea Blaze, a new fire-type alternative to our favorite bull from Gen 1. This Gen 9 fella is a pretty cool design, I think, a fire-fighting type with the ability Intimidate, an ability you can never go too wrong with, lowering attack of enemy on switch-in. Tauros Paldea Blaze had a brief moment in the Chien Pao meta, where it was the hardest counter to Chien Pao available in the game, because it resisted both of Chien Pao's stab types and also intimidated it on switch-in and had access to Will-O-Wisp plus Fighting Stab to threaten it directly. Chien Pao was so ubiquitous that there was actually some merit to running Paldea Tauros Blaze version in OU. That was a fleeting moment though, you can't really say that that makes Tauros good. It was a very centralized meta surrounding a single leopard where Tauros came to save the day for a brief moment. But fundamentally, this Pokemon was not too bad. Tim is a great ability. It's got 100 base speed and serviceable attack and defense. It has Bulk Up as a boosting option. Close Combat is great. It even has Trailblaze to boost its speed. And then defensively, you've got Will-O-Wisp Protect. I think there's a new move called Raging Bull, which is becomes a fire type attack because it's blaze form and it destroys screens. I suppose it's not great, is it? You'd rather just Flare Blitz, but could be a middle ground option between Flare Blitz and a weaker fire type physical move. There's some merit to a thing like that. Tauros Paldia Blaze is in the PU tier, but I do feel that if it existed in older gens than Gen 9, it would be much better. Fundamentally, this Pokemon is pretty solid, I believe. It also has the ability Cud Chew, which lets it eat multi-berry eater. I like to eat multiple berries. I mean, who would open a punnet of blueberries and only eat one of them? There are many blueberries in there, and I think that to eat one, maybe it's an incredible show of restraint to only eat a single blueberry from the punnet. I would like to meet the person that does that. That's crazy. You gotta have at least 3 blueberries, come on. But Cud Chew allows you to eat the same berry at end of turn, which can be select reversal strategy. Intimidate's probably better though. I think this is a fundamentally solid Pokemon that unfortunately is very low ranked in Gen 9 because the power level is going crazy. And this stat spread probably doesn't cut it by modern standards. Up next is Incineroar, the doubles superstar. He's been mentioned, it's happened. Incineroar is far worse in singles, of course, due to the lower value of Fake Out in an environment where you don't have an ally to take advantage of the flinched enemy. Fake Out's great in doubles, average in singles. So the godlike combo of Intimidate, Fake Out, plus everything else great about Incineroar that makes it so excellent in doubles does not translate to singles, regrettably. But Incineroar still has some stuff. Fire Dark typing is good offensively. Intimidate in singles is still an amazing ability. Lowering attack is always nice on entry. And Incineroar's move pool is also quite decent. You have good stab moves, especially Knock Off, which is always a beautiful thing to have. U-Turn is always much appreciated. Parting Shot as well. And with heavy duty boots, Incineroar is a decent Intimidate pivot type fella. It's got pretty well-rounded stats. It can knock things off. It can tank incoming hits fairly well. It's not too bad, but still it's slow and kind of weak, and its tools are not as well suited to singles, so it's lower tier here, but there are worse than it, of course. Like Colossal and stuff. Incineroar is better than Colossal, some are saying. Up next is Scovillain. This is a weird one to evaluate because Scovillain only exists in Gen 9 where it is a very low tier Pokemon ranked in ZU. So it might seem strange for me to have a ZU Pokemon this high, but I believe that at its heart of hearts, Scovillain represents something greater than where it's ranked in Gen 9. Scovillain, you see, is a Sun Pokemon. It is in fact the first ever Fire type with Chlorophyll, and that's a big deal because historically, Pokemon that get double speed in the sun with Chlorophyll do not have stab fire type damage that is boosted by the sun. And this is actually a flaw that makes sun teams historically worse than rain teams, because Swift Swim Pokemon get stab water moves boosted by the rain plus double speed, and that is just a really powerful combination. So Scovillain is the first one ever. And Grass Fire typing is really, really amazing offensively. The complementary types used on offensive sets all the time. Scovillain has Solar Beam for extra Sun synergy as well, and Grass Stab, plus that Sun boosted Fire Stab, and also like growth and stuff, and many reasons to be auspicious about its future. Now Scovillain does have really bad stats, of course, 108 attack and special attack, 75 speed, but historically, even Pokemon with bad stats can do well if they have a double speed in the weather ability, like Kingdra. Kingdra doesn't have great stats, but has Swift Swim, so that makes up for it. I think that Scovillain just came out at a bad time, because Scovillain came out in the generation where Photosynthesis is the big meta thing in OU. Photosynthesis is an ability that boosts your highest stat in the sun, and it is the main form of sun synergy in Gen 9 OU. So Pokemon like Walking Wake and Raging Bolt are more popular as special attackers on sun teams than Scovillain is. Also, Scovillain's double speed doesn't feel as impactful when there is so much powerful priority in Gen 9 OU, and that means that Scovillain's low defense is going to be a real shortcoming for it. I think in a different environment, Scovillain would be really good. It just came out in Gen 9 where it wasn't the time for it. And maybe its stats are a bit weak as well, but you could see this being a good Pokemon in prior gens easily, I think. I would give Scovillain credit. I also really like its design and name. Good wordplay, Scovillain. That's smart. They were smart when they made this, dare I say. Up next is Mega Houndoom. Megas are usually really powerful, they're at the center of competitive. Mega Houndoom though has always been a more average one. It has some okay stat increases. 115 speed is pretty fast, and 140 special attack, also valid and valued. But it can't help but feel that Mega Houndoom is a bit weaker than other special attacking megas in the game, especially Alakazam and Mega Gardevoir and fellas like this. Mega Houndoom is not feeling as good. And it really doesn't help that Mega Houndoom's ability is a little bit underwhelming. Its ability is Solar Power, which grants 1.3x damage in the sun at the cost of taking chip damage every turn. It's a rough ability. I mean, that chip damage really adds up. And to run this on a sun team is a lot to ask, I feel. There is some niche value, I think, to Mega Houndoom in OU with its typing. It's nice to be a dark type neutral to fairy, and you are reasonably fast and threatening. But running this with solar power feels a little clunky and not fantastic. And it is a serious consumption of the mega slot, and there are so many better megas in OU. So a rather middling mega, regrettably. They could have done more with this, I think. Up next is Arcanine. Arcanine has a pretty decent competitive history. It's a mono fire type with two good choices for abilities. One is Flash Fire, offering fire immunity and bonus fire damage if struck. And one is Intimidate, lowering attack on entry. Both great choices. Arcanine has serviceable stats. 110 attack is pretty good. 100 special attack. It's fast enough with 95 speed, and its bulk is also okay. So in early gens especially, Arcanine is pretty solid. It has a good move pool too. It's one of the rare Pokemon with access to extreme speed in early gens. 80 power Prio move. Fantastic attacking option to have. Arcanine can function decently well as a bulky fire type with Will-O-Wisp and Morning Sun. It's got a solid attacking move pool. It can be a mixed or physical threat. Now, don't get me wrong, it's never been excellent or anything in any of those gens, but it's always been consistently solid in mid tiers and even UU in a couple gens, I believe. As well as OU viable in Gen 3. This is a respectable Pokemon overall. It's fallen off pretty significantly in Gen 9, but historically, quite a solid one. Up next is Charizard, the most popular of all fire types, a mascot of the series, and one of my personal favorites as well. I enjoy Charizard very much for its role in Gen 3 OU as a great mixed attacking fire type. But of course in Gen 4 Charizard suffered immensely from the introduction of Stealth Rock, which really ruined its career. I'm probably overrating it a bit, but I think I would give Charizard a bit of respect for actually being a decent solar power wall breaker and seeing OU viability as a result of that. In later generations, Sun teams can generally afford the rapid spin support that makes Charizard worth running, and then the sheer power of its fire type attacks in this gun with choice specs and solar power are pretty good at just tearing through teams. By the way, I was incorrect. Solar power is 1.5x damage, not 1.3x. I think I said in the Mega Houndoom section. I've realized I misspoke. You must forgive me. I am probably overrating Charizard a little bit here, to be honest, but I do think that the solar power wall breaker sets are at least worth factoring in a little bit. They are OU viable on the right team. It's the truth. It's the entire truth. Up next is Infernape. It's kind of crazy to have Infernape this low, but despite a strong start in competitive, Infernape has not aged well at all. Infernape debuted in Gen 4 where it was a good Pokemon, a fire fighting type with an impressive speed benchmark of 108, very good at the time, and good enough offensive stats in both areas, plus a vast move pool, to really be a great mixed attacker. Infernape had some of the best new moves in the game, like Close Combat, Grass Knot, and Stealth Rock, U-Turn as well. There was a lot to like about Infernape in Gen 4. In Gen 5, Infernape is technically ranked OU because it was popular at the time, but in modern Gen 5, and as time has gone on, Infernape is not really that viable in this metagame. It is really suffering from its lower stats and inability to really one-hit anything, plus being outclassed by other Stealth Rock setters. It probably has some niche value, but it's far from an OU ranked presence in this format, and it would only get worse from there as Infernape never reached the heights of own OU ranking again, and in today is ranked NU in Gen 9. When you look at Infernape, it doesn't look as impressive as it felt back in the day. These stats just aren't cutting it anymore. The vast move pool that was so impressive back in Gen 4 is nothing really to write home about any longer. either. It's quite a shame, but I do think Infernape has aged terribly. Even though in my head I think of this as an OU Pokemon, it's simply not the case any longer. Up next is Entei. This is a Legendario Pokemon. Entei had a rough time initially in competitive Pokemon. Sort of a similar problem to Flareon actually, being a physically oriented fire type at a time where that wasn't really a great thing to be. But over time Entei got more distinct and more successful. Entei has a pretty well-rounded stat distribution. 115 HP bodes well for it. Its defenses are decent enough alongside that HP. It has 100 base speed, which is solid, and 115 attack, which is solid. Entei was granted the incredible option of Sacred Fire, eventually, which was formerly the signature move of Ho-Oh, and this is an incredible attack. One of the best in the game. It has 100 power and a 50% chance to burn, making it just incredibly powerful. Even resisted hits will have that significant burn chance to potentially cripple incoming switch-ins. Entei was also granted Extreme Speed for a powerful priority neutral attack. And with the solid physical move pool that it has access to beyond that, Entei finds itself around RU and UU in most generations, being a pretty solid Pokemon. Its ability Inner Focus also got better later in the series, granting an immunity to Intimidate, which is quite relevant in a world where Intimidate is pretty common. Up next is Chandelure, a Pokemon that I like very much. A ghostly chandelier is a beautiful idea for a Pokemon, and it's well executed in game, with a fire ghost typing, which is great offensively. Chandelure has much to be thankful for in its stats. 145 special attack is considerable, and 80 base speed is workable with a special attack stat that high. Chandelure has the ability Flash Fire, which is very good, fire immunity, and bonus fire damage if struck, as we've covered many times already. A lot of fire types get this. It also has Infiltrator, which is another great option, allowing it to attack through substitutes and through screen effects. Very good offensive ability. Chandelure can be a good Specs wall breaker. Its special attacking move pool is good, and it even has Trick to cripple the defensive walls trying to switch in against it and make things happen. I don't think there's anything too wrong with Chandelure fundamentally, but it's always felt a little bit lacking, just slightly off from OU viability in many generations. Largely due to its slightly below average speed of 80 and the breaking power not quite making up for that enough, plus rock weakness being a real problem in many gens. Now there are boots, but it does still feel like you need a choice item to really use Chandelure to the fullest. Chandelure also in Gen 9 has a lot of competition from other ghosts. Dragapult, of course, and Goldengo, and even like Pecharunt and Skeledirge and such. If you look at Chandelure, there's nothing too wrong with it, is there? It's a perfectly fine Pokemon design that finds itself outclassed by other ghost special attackers and fire type special attackers in almost every gen it's in, which is a shame, really. Up next we have Alolan Marowak, who is a Pokemon I quite enjoy. This alternate form of Marowak is a fire ghost type, and while it does have poor stats and a very low speed as well as being pretty frail, that's a lot to overcome. It does have one of the strongest exclusive items in the whole game, the Thick Club. If held by a Cubono Marowak, this doubles your Pokemon's attack, and double attack is an incredible effect. On top of this, you have the solid ability Rock Head, which makes you immune to recoil damage and makes Flare Blitz a much scarier option, the high power with the double attack of Thick Club being pretty incredible for wall breaking. I remember this being a viable choice in Gen 7 OU as a Sun physical wall breaker. It's pretty damn difficult to switch in on this, especially because Earthquake threatens Heatran, who's the main switch in for Sun boosted fire damage. And then you also have a really nice form of Ghost physical stab too, with Shadow Bone, which is something that's hard to come by, especially in Gen 7 before Poltergeist came out. An 85 power Ghost physical move with the nice 20% chance to drop defense on top is really not too bad. Plus, Alolan Marowak does also have the option of Lightning Rod as an ability for some electric immunity that can be helpful for entry points, although you are taking recoil. But it's another valid option besides Rock Head. The Pokemon is only ranked RU, but it does have that OU niche with pretty unique wall-breaking capabilities not offered by other Pokemon. I would call this a valued creature. Up next is Rotom Heat. Rotom Heat is a cool Pokemon, an oven come to life. Electric Fire is a dual typing that obviously is wide open to times 4 super effective ground damage, which is why it's so great that its ability is Levitate, granting ground immunity and erasing what would be such a devastating weakness. This makes Rotom Heat a uniquely positioned defensive utility Pokemon. An Electric Fire typing with Levitate covering that biggest weakness can have its value, especially with Electric offering immunity to paralysis, Fire offering immunity to burn, and all the great resistances you have here. Rotom Heat is a cool defensive pivot. It can take advantage of Volt Switch for momentum and offensive pressure. Its Overheat is quite hard hitting and a fitting option. In Gen 8 it even got Nasty Plot to be a bit of a win condition. Will-O-Wisp is always great on this, and Pain Split allows you to have a form of healing, taking advantage as well of your lower HP stat. All the Rotom forms tend to rely on their typing and ability for their bulk, and Rotom Heat is no different. In the past, it suffered from rock weakness, but in Gen 8, it really appreciated the addition of heavy-duty boots to the game to patch that up and got way better, even having a stint in OU for a time in Gen 8. Rotom Heat tends to be ranked around UU, and is probably the second best of the Rotom forms, behind the famous Rotom Wash. In Gen 9, it has plummeted significantly down to NU. It doesn't feel as great anymore, partially because it lost a lot of stuff, especially Defog and Toxic, which were important options. But I think it's worth giving this respect for being pretty damn consistent before that. And also having the utility of baking various foods for you and heating them up in an oven. With an oven you can create all sorts of little delights to eat. And isn't that just wonderful? Up next is Darmanitan. Darmanitan is kind of a Pokemon for insane people. Darmanitan is capable of achieving some serious damage output. It has a 140 base attack, which is great. Plus it has Sheer Force for bonus damage on top of that, 1.3x damage, cancelling out secondary effects in the process. So Darmanitan's Stab Flare Blitz is an incredibly hard-hitting attack. And Darmanitan is fairly fast for someone with such an impressive attack stat. 95 speed is quite good. Its move pool is also very good. U-Turn, Rock Slide, and Earthquake are great physical options. Darmanitan is consistently ranked UU, in fact, all the way up till Gen 8. Not present in Gen 9, but it may have been ranked UU there too, you don't know. Darmanitan also has the interesting option of Zen Mode, a rather unique ability that changes you to Darmanitan's Zen form if you are lower than half your max HP. I think that this is a worse ability than just the straightforward Sheer Force click button tactic, but it's worth mentioning at least. Zen Mode, if we can look at it here by editing the data that makes Darmanitan who he is, turns you into this fun little stone man that is fire psychic type and has a higher special attack instead. It's an intriguing idea, but probably not the best because the typing is not great and you aren't even that outstanding defensively. A novel concept though, to be sure. A problem with Darmanitan's big click button Flare Blitz set is that you take so much recoil damage from Flare Blitz, and being a fire type, vulnerable to Stealth Rock that also can't even really afford boots because of how important a choice item is. Which gives Darmanitan a lot to watch out for, and it often finds itself just getting chipped down by all these things and not sticking around for very long. It can do a lot of damage in the short term, but it dies very quickly, and that's a problem. So it's never been OU, but I think that you can use this on OU Sun teams occasionally. It's kind of a UU staple at this point. It's a UU in almost every game, and it can achieve some of the highest damage output in the game, even if that damage output comes at the cost of incredible recoil. So Darmanitan is valued, despite its insanity. Up next is Armarouge. This Pokemon does have a lot to overcome, don't get me wrong. A fire psychic typing, as we established with Delphox, has its shortcomings, and Armarouge is slower than Delphox with 75 base speed. Armarouge, though, does have a good special attack set of 125, and some pretty interesting options. Armarouge has a signature move, Armor Cannon, which is amazing. It's a 120 power, fire-type special attack that works like close combat, lowering your defense and special defense by 1 when used. This is an amazing attack. An accurate fire move with 120 power like this is very difficult to come by. Armarouge is also very good on psychic terrain offense teams. This is where its psychic typing kind of comes in handy. It can run Expanding Force, which deals bonus 1.5x damage in Psychic Terrain. Psychic Terrain also shields it from priority, and the Focus Sash Weak Armor combo is kind of interesting there. If struck by a physical move, Weak Armor will grant +2 speed and -1 defense. This can allow you to overcome your below average speed stat of 75 and actually be really damn threatening. The Focus Sash also shields you from your early grave, allows you to hang on to life and do considerable damage in the process. The other ability of Flash Fire also has its merits. I think with these great attacking options and the weak armor set, Psychic Terrain synergy, all considered, Mirage is a respectable Pokemon. Now, Fire Psychic typing at a low speed do just come with a lot of drawbacks, so it's not that high on the list either, but I would give it the respect of this position on the list. And it only came out in Gen 9, you can imagine this being a much better Pokemon in prior gens. Up next is Talonflame, funny bird. Talonflame in Gen 6 made a splash with its ability Gale Wings, granting +1 priority to all flying type moves, an absolutely fantastic ability for the type. Even though Talonflame had unimpressive stats, other than its 126 speed. Priority on all flying moves was massive. Roost now had priority, and crucially Brave Bird and Acrobatics had priority. So Talonflame was ranked OU when it debuted. Regrettably in Gen 7, Gale Wings was nerfed to now only work if you are on full HP. At full HP, your flying moves get priority, otherwise they do not. This was a massive nerf for Talonflame, but its viability in lower tiers did persist with its still great speed stat and physical move pool in Gen 7, and in Gen 8 it benefited greatly from the addition of heavy duty boots, allowing it to overcome its times for rock weakness. It was then discovered that it could function pretty well as a defensive utility Pokemon with Flame Body, Roost, U-Turn, and Defog. And in Gen 9, when these options were a bit more scarce, Talonflame even had some OU viability on stall teams. That was a UU staple for quite a bit there as well. Talonflame managed to soar above the shortcomings of its poor stats and targetable typing, in ways few dreamed possible. These things have caught up to it now. It's ranked RU, which I think is still respectable considering. But it's a big world out there for a medium-sized bird, isn't it? Up next is Ninetales, and this is a difficult Pokemon to rank. In some ways it's an extraordinarily important Pokemon, in some ways it is an underwhelming Pokemon. Ninetales was a pretty bad fire type in the early days, until Gen 5 when it was granted the new ability Drought, which made it unique as a non-legendary that could set Sun on the field. Thanks to Drought, Ninetales shot up to OU rank in Gen 5, where weather was still permanent, and it was incredibly metagame defining. Sun teams were excellent for a long time there, and still have their place in the metagame there as well. Now in Gen 6, Drought was nerfed, no longer be permanent, but Ninetales remained the only non-legendary Sun setter with the Drought ability, which still had its value. In Gen 7, Ninetales gained competition from Torkoal, who was at the time superior thanks to its utility of Stealth Rock and Rapid Spin. Ninetales had less to offer other than setting Sun, comparatively worse utility. But in Gen 9, Ninetales is returned back to the forefront of the meta, desirable for its more aggressive and special attacking move pool, and the ever-valuable Encore, which is great against metagame staples Raging Bolt and King Gambit to lock them into their setup moves or their Sucker Punch or Thunderclap. Plus having general good outcomes against boost sweepers in general. Ninetales also has Healing Wish for momentum and Will-O-Wisp. So in Gen 9 OU, Ninetales is great in my opinion. Despite being ranked as EU, it's seen quite commonly in OU, and could rise in the future depending on the popularity of Sun teams. So, an important Pokemon historically, as for a while the only Sun setter in the game, but you can't rank it too high either because Sun is a dubious archetype in many gens. Often very much inferior to Rain, and then Ninetales is also competing with Torkoal in Gen 7 for the Sun slot. So I think I would put Ninetales about here for the significance of being the first non-legendary Drought Pokemon, but also having its downsides as well. But recently being respectable in Gen 9, in fact being better than Torkoal in the eyes of many. Difficult Pokemon to rank with all those ups and downs, but I would put it around here, I think. Up next is Hisuian Arcanine, a new form of Arcanine in Gen 9 that might just be the most functional fire rock type competitively we have ever seen. I've gone over why this typing is so dreadful, but Arcanine Hisui really plays to the strengths of this dual type combo, because it is very good offensively. Hisuian Arcanine has a respectable 90 base speed and 115 attack, and crucially the ability Rock Head, granting an immunity to recoil damage. This is huge because Flare Blitz, your main fire stab, now becomes way better when there is no recoil whatsoever. And the same applies to Head Smash, which has an unbelievable half damage recoil effect on it. 150 power, 80 accuracy, and half damage recoil. Now this move is so much better and so much safer to use. With extreme speed as well, for priority, to make up for the scenarios where you are slower and give you late game cleanup opportunities, as well as other good coverage options like Close Combat for fighting coverage and Wild Charge, which now has no recoil because of Rock Head. This is a good Pokemon. It's ranked UU, but it has been used in OU as a breaker and functioned well in that role, and I think it's a very fun design. I like Rock Head with a bunch of really strong stab recoil moves. Very fun Pokemon to use and to build with, and a surprising competitive success for a typing that has historically been one of the worst in the game. Up next is Ceruledge. Ceruledge is a counterpart to Armarouge. They make up a duo, but Ceruledge has swords while Armarouge has a Mega Man blaster. There's quite a dichotomy between the two philosophies of these creatures. Ceruledge is a physically leaning Pokemon with a Fire Ghost typing, which is a far better typing than Fire Psychic overall. Ghost is great offensively and defensively with the immunities it provides, and being a great neutral attacking type. Ceruledge has the same ability options of Flash Fire and Weak Armor, but it feels better at using Weak Armor sets thanks to Swords Dance being a sharper boost in attack than Armarouge's Calm Mind. Ceruledge also has Bitter Blade, a great fire stab option that heals you. Shadow Snake also offers a form of priority to make up for your lower speed and give you some counterplay against all the priority users of Gen 9 with a priority move of your own to match them. That's very important in this metagame where priority is a big part of it. You also get Poltergeist for a great ghost stab option. Some choose not to run this because it can be vulnerable against booster energy. They need to have an item for it to work. You could just run Shadow Claw instead despite the lower power. But Ceruledge has been pretty damn good throughout Gen 9. On offensive teams, it's had ups and downs of course. It hasn't been OU for the entirety of the gen, sometimes finding itself in BL. But recently it rose back up again, and always seems to have some place on aggressive strategies, and is a bit more self-sufficient than Armarouge, who does need the support of Psychic Terrain to function. Ceruledge is a bit better on its own merits, thanks to its typing and superior tools to take advantage of its weak armor speed boost. Up next is Skeledirge, a Pokemon that I value. Skeledirge is a fellow that I've talked about recently and that I related to Croc for the PlayStation. There's parallels between them. Absolutely, there is. Especially in their determination and good hearts. I think that Skeledirge is a lot like Croc for the PlayStation, but that aside, Skeledirge is a Fire Ghost type Pokemon, the starter of Gen 9, and has the ability Unaware, granting an immunity to enemy stat stage changes. They can be boosted as much as they like and it won't have an impact. It's an amazing defensive ability, and it has given Skeledirge a lot to do in Gen 9. People forget that Skeledirge once was one of those Pokemon holding everything together. In times when there were a million powerful broken boost sweepers to answer, Skeledirge would be one of the fellas to do it, while also not being so passive like Dondozo or Quagsire that you have to run full on stall. Skeledirge was like a good middle point between answering the boost sweepers and also being pretty proactive itself. Fire Ghost is an interesting typing for a Pokemon like this. It means it matched up well against Volcarona back when it was in OU. It often has to Terra to answer a lot of things, but that feels worth it on this thing that gets so much out of its ability. And its move pool is great. Torch Song is its signature move, and it's such a good move. It might be the best fire-type special attack. Torch Song has 80 power, 100 accuracy, and a 100% chance to raise special attack. So it just ramps you by yourself, increasing your special attack with each use. Very good, and it even lets Skeledirge be a bit of a win con. It's why it's more proactive than other Unaware users. Plus it goes through Sub, which is valued. Sound-based moves can bypass Substitute. Skeledirge has Will-O-Wisp, which is great into all the damn physical threats it's trying to answer. Slack off for straightforward healing. Hex for synergy with Will-O-Wisp. It's a solid move pool, its stats are well-rounded and pretty high for an unaware Pokemon. And I think it's worth factoring in that Skeledirge is able to answer a bunch of different threats in Ubers, like Koraidon, Zacian Crown, and some Arceus forms. All that considered, I think Skeledirge is a damn good Pokemon. Plus, have you heard the soundtrack for Croc on the PS1? I mean, come on. Listen to this, it's incredible. And this factors into the Skeledirge ranking. I'm sorry, but it does. The Croc soundtrack is a factor in my ranking here. Up next is Victini, a Pokemon that I'm fond of. Victini released back in Gen 5, where it didn't have the best start. It's a Psychic Fire type, with 100 stats across the board, reminiscent of other Mythicals. But Victini sets itself apart with a very aggro identity. It has the V-Create move, which only it and Rayquaza get, I believe, which is a crazy attack with a 180 base power and 95 accuracy. That's just incredible damage output. And this option absolutely defines Victini's identity. This is a ridiculously powerful attack. It does have the terrible drawback of lowering your defense, special defense, and speed, so it's a very hit and run move. You attack and then probably switch out, but the breaking power of this is pretty fantastic. I think Victini has gotten better over time. In Gen 7, Victini was damn solid as a wall breaker on some teams, and it also had the Z Celebrate sweeper sets too, since it can be both special or physical. And in Gen 8, Victini was ranked OU and a really strong Pokemon that benefited greatly from the addition of heavy-duty boots to the game, and was able to take great advantage of its fantastic physical attacking move pool. Bolt Strike is another option here, which is a really great form of electric physical damage with 130 power. And even though it's 85% accurate, your ability Victory Star increases accuracy by 1.1x. So that helps a lot. U-turn is always appreciated. To pivot out, it just makes any physical attacker more viable, honestly. And then people running Glaciate here on these sets, not only for ice coverage, but for the speed lowering, which makes your switch-ins a bit more reliable. And you can do Glaciate into U-turn against enemies that have had their speed lowered. That's a great combo. Victini's not in Gen 9, but I think if it was, it would probably also be OU. It's just really solid, and V-Create is such a strong move. That would probably be really appreciated because of how strong Sun teams are now, and just the sheer damage output of that. One hits most things you can really think of. Not even Dondozo would be taking that well, especially because you have Bolt Strike as coverage. So yeah, I think Victini is damn good. Up next is Torkoal, who was blessed with the ability Drought in Gen 7. Before that, it was a dreadful Pokemon, but Drought gave it a new lease on life, and skyrocketed it to the forefront of competitive as the new best Sun setter in Gen 7. Because of Torkoal, I think Sun saw a renaissance. It still wasn't as good as Rain, but Torkoal really breathed new life into the archetype and made it viable again with its fantastic defenses and incredibly good 140 physical defense. Plus the utility of Stealth Rock, Rapid Spin, and Will-O-Wisp just being great on a Sun setter. Torkoal made Sun worth using again in Gen 7 and 8. In Gen 9, even though Ninetales is more popular recently, Torkoal still has its place and sets itself apart from Ninetales with its superior defenses and Rapid Spin. And Stealth Rock and Will-O-Wisp. These are very different tools. No, they both have Will-O-Wisp actually. But Torkoal's better at using it as a defensive Pokemon. With Sun being such an important archetype in Gen 9, I think that I would give Torkoal a lot of credit as well for being the primary Sunsetter of Gen 9 for most of its lifespan and continuing to be a relevant one, as well as being the superior Sunsetter to Ninetales in past gens. If I had to put money on it for the future, I would probably say that Torkoal would outdo Ninetales in the future as well because of its access to Rapid Spin and high defense, which are generally probably easy to fit on teams if we don't know about the meta anyway. I would guess that would be the case. Up next is Volcanion. This is a mythical Pokemon that has had a pretty damn respectable competitive career indeed. Releasing in Gen 6, it was OU ranked, thanks to its many desirable traits. Fire Water is a solid dual typing. Its stats are very well rounded with a good bulk, high special attack, and even a serviceable 70 base speed considering the rest of its stats. Its ability is Water Absorb, which is a great ability that you can't go too wrong with. Water Immunity and Healing if struck. And Volcanion also has the fantastic signature move Steam Eruption, which is an amazing water type attack. It has 110 power, 95 accuracy, and a 30% burn chance, much like Scald. It's as if Scald and Hydro Bump combined to have high power and the high impact burn chance, making this a very spammable move and comparable to Sacred Fire almost in its ability to burn things that should come in safely but now can't. Volcanion's other moveset options are also very solid, with Earth Power and Sludge Bomb for coverage, as well as Flamethrower and Fire Blast for stab on the fire side of things. In Gen 9 it's ranked RUBL, but I also think it's a bit underrated in OU in Gen 9. It's still very good, and I've seen it prop up on successful teams more than once. There's still much to appreciate about a fella like Volcanion. The good combo of defense and offense, and one of the greatest special attacks in the whole series, arguably, in Steam Eruption. Up next is Moltres, my favorite of the legendary bird trio, and one that has aged extremely well, perhaps being better than ever in Gen 9 OU. Moltres had a tough early existence, especially when Stealth Rock came out and really destroyed its chances at success, but I think that Moltres deserves a lot of credit for surprisingly powering through those moments and not dropping too much compared to other Rock Weak Pokemon. Remember that in Gen 1 to 3 Moltres was really solid, even being OU ranked in Gen 3. And in Gen 4, despite ×4 rock weakness, Moltres persevered thanks to its ability Pressure, Roost, solid stats, and offensive output, making it worth running with the appropriate hazard removal support. In Gen 5, there were Moltres Rain teams that could use Stab Hurricane and the power of Pressure Stall for some pretty interesting offensive output. In Gen 8, of course, with the addition of heavy-duty boots, one of Moltres' greatest flaws was patched up and it skyrocketed in viability. The ability Flame Body was also an incredible addition, enhancing its defensive value. It is a better ability than Pressure in most cases. 30% chance to burn on contact, punishing effects like U-Turn, Rapid Spin, Iron Head, etc. In Gen 9, Moltres is straight up fantastic, matching up very well against Great Tusk, Iron Treads, Gliscor, and many more. It's a great physical pivot that outputs some pretty respectable damage output with its Stab Flamethrower. It can U-turn out, it can roar things out, it matches up well against Zamazenta. This is a OU ranked Pokemon in Gen 9, and a good one, and I commend Moltres for aging so well and getting better and better over time, only with subtle buffs. I guess the addition of boots was a major buff, now that I think about it. But it was also an indirect buff, and the invention of shoes is something we all benefited from as a society. Even if some benefited more than others, we view this as just a technological advancement that is the truth of modern life, don't we? The invention of footwear. Up next is Blacephalon. He looks like kind of a funny guy, like he's a clown whose sole purpose is to amuse me. That's what I think of Blacephalon. This is a fire ghost type, and an excellent special attacking wall break. Unlike Chandelure, who always kind of struggled to be viable, Blacephalon feels like a better Chandelure all around, with the same fire ghost typing, but a much higher 107 base speed, and even higher 151 special attack, and the ability Beast Boost, which increases your highest stat on KO, serving to increase its special attack further, as that is its highest stat usually. Blacephalon's move pool is similar to Chandelure's, but thanks to its stats and ability, it's so much better at the same job. And it was a great Pokemon in Gen 7 and 8 OU. I think if it returned, it would probably be great. Again, how could a Pokemon like this fail? It's a Fire Ghost type with great stats and Beast Boost. It's a recipe for success. It's an incredible special attacker. And Blacephalon is also considered a pinnacle of romance. And I think that if asked who your favorite Pokemon is by your partner, you should say Blacephalon. It is the optimal answer. It shows that you are a nuanced individual. It shows that you have a fire in your heart. But you can also laugh at yourself like a clown, like you're there to amuse others. And that's the golden balance. Up next is Mega Charizard Y, a formidable Mega indeed. And a popular one in the OU formats of Gen 6 and 7. Mega Charizard Y has a significantly higher special attack. It has the same fire flying typing, but the fantastic new ability Drought, creating sun on the field. And with Drought, it can now take advantage of the Solar Beam option for grass coverage with the sun it creates, as well as dealing incredible damage with fire-type special attacks. Mega Charizard Y is a fantastic special wall breaker in Gen 6 and 7 that is perfectly fine on its own without any sun synergy on the team, just because Drought supports its own goals. But you can also run other Pokemon that benefit from Sun, and that's a little bit of bonus points, a bit of added synergy there. Mega Charizard Y does dislike stepping on the little rocks though, which is understandable. I'm the same. I don't like to step on a sharp rock. Ouch. Ouchie. That's no good. But Mega Charizard Y overcomes rock weakness with all of its other incredible advantages. It's well worth running it with hazard removal to reap the benefits of its great calling of the sun from the sky to aid it in battle. How absolutely beautiful. Up next is Iron Moth. Some might take issue with me putting the Moth above Mega Charizard Y. I do believe that Iron Moth is that good though. This is the Future Paradox version of Volcarona, and a very prominent offensive threat in Gen 9 OU. Iron Moth's stats are really great. It has 140 special attack, which is just extremely good, and 110 speed. Iron Moth also has unique access to the Booster Energy item, which synergizes with the Quark Drive ability to grant a single-used boost to your highest stat. And with a speed boost, Iron Moth poses an immediate offensive threat like few things in Gen 9 OU. The fact that you switch in and you instantly get a speed boost is crazy. Iron Moth has great stamp types, Fire, Poison, and Fiery Dance can give you further value from Iron Moth if you happen to get the 50% special attack boost. Now, some say that Iron Moth as a name is not very creative. It is merely describing the creature in front of us. It would be like calling Pikachu Electric Rat rather than giving it the distinct name of Pikachu. And I hear this criticism and I say, no, Iron Moth is a name with much artistic value to it. And I believe it to be bold, to be so to the point in a name, so descript and so cold in how the Pokemon is referred to. As if it is merely a functional being. It doesn't even have an identity. It is just the Iron Moth. It is a mere tool for me to use in my battle. And this says so much more about how it's perceived in society than it would if you called it like Robug or something like Robobug or something stupid like that, rather than Iron Moth, which I think just speaks to the soul of what the Pokemon is supposed to be about. Up next is Cinderace, the Fire-type starter of Gen 8. When this debuted, it was actually too powerful. With pre-nerf Libero, which is the same ability as Protean in essence, changing your type to match the type of the move you're using. Cinderace, with its high speed, serviceable attack, and vast move pool, was a bit much. It was a bit too powerful. Constantly changing type to get the perfect stab on everything it does. Much like how Greninja was broken back in Gen 6, Cinderace was in Gen 8. But in Gen 9, they have nerfed Libero and Protean to only work once per switch in. And this is enough of a nerf to make Cinderace more reasonable now. Also, it does feel like the power level around it has risen. But Cinderace remains one of the best Pokemon of Gen 9 OU and a very consistent one that offers offense and utility and pivoting and momentum and even an answer for hazards all in one. Cinderace has the signature move Pyro Ball, which is a really great move. 120 power fire move with 90 accuracy. Just a solid high power attack with pretty low drawback. You got U-turn to pivot out Sucker Punch for some Prio, which is always valued in the Gen 9 metagame. And also Court Change, another signature move that swaps field effects with the opposing side. You can use this to actually give them the Stealth Rock that they gave you. And it's a pretty great way in the short term to deal with hazards. Now, if hazards are on both sides of the field, it won't work. You'll just swap, and in swapping, you'll have the same hazards. But sometimes it can be fantastic and really flip the momentum back in your favor if you set up for it. It's a really great utility effect. Cinderace also gets Will-O-Wisp, which is nice to burn some fellas, hit some switch-ins. As far as Libero users go in Gen 9, it's also convenient that your main stab doesn't change your type, so you can save the type change for U-turn or Sucker Punch when you need it. It's awkward on a dual-type Pokemon like Meowscarada, because whenever you click Flower Trick, you expend Protean and turn Grass, and therefore can't change type on one of your coverage moves. Cinderace sidesteps that problem by being a mono Fire type and having Pyro Ball. Cinderace is very popular for its fast physical damage output, plus utility all in one, and even pivoting on top of that, plus priority. That's a lot in a single Pokemon slot. And it's going to fit on a lot of different teams. An excellent Pokemon all around, really. Up next is Mega Charizard X. Some might take issue with me putting this above Cinderace and Mega Charizard Y here, but I do believe Mega Charizard X is really damn good. This is a more physical-leaning variant of Charizard that becomes a Fire Dragon type upon Mega Evolution, and it gains the ability Tough Claws. which is a really incredible ability that just increases physical damage by 1.3x. Just a straightforwardly powerful increase to your damage right there. Mega Charizard X suffers from a similar problem to Charizard Y in its rock weakness, especially pre-Mega Evolution when it's fire flying, but this is such a strong Dragon Dance sweeper. Fire Dragon typing is so good for this because you are neutral to Scald and water type attacks in general, and immune to the Scald burn. You can't be hit by Will-O-Wisp, and it's a good defensive typing in a lot of ways with a lot of nice resistances. It's also unexpected which Charizard you're going to be. You can bluff a little bit, and the type change can be clutch and give you like electric resistance suddenly when you didn't have it previously, or water neutrality, giving you an opportunity to Dragon Dance up. Also, after Dragon Dancing, Mega Charizard X quite cleanly outruns most things in the game. Base 100 speed is solid. And with Tough Claws and great stab moves, I mean, Fire and Dragon are very complementary stab types. Plus Earthquake, always appreciated as physical coverage. It's just an incredibly effective physical sweeper that was really dominant, in particular in Gen 7 OU. I've heard the power that this guy represents and how strong it feels is so significant. It's so worth running this with rapid spin support or defog support just to enable this incredibly good win condition. You can also run Roost on it if you want a sturdier version of it to even squeeze in more Dragon Dances. I even think some people ran defensive EV spreads for that. I just think Mega Charizard X is extremely good. Up next is Heatran, who is one of the most consistent competitive Pokemon in history and probably one of the best Pokemon designs ever. Heatran debuted in Gen 4 where it was immediately great in OU, and its OU rank has persisted throughout the years, which is a testament to how well designed it was initially and how well it has aged. In Gen 9 it recently reclaimed its OU ranking as well after a slightly rocky start. Heatran has great fundamental qualities. It is a Fire-Steel type, which is a nice typing, offensively and defensively, especially when paired with the ability Flash Fire, which grants fire immunity. Heatran has a lot of key resistances, and key immunities to burn and poison, sandstorm chip, etc. Heatran has a very well-rounded stat distribution. 91 HP is solid, 106 in each of the defenses is solid, 130 special attack is great, and considering how well-balanced the stats are, you can't complain about 77 speed either. This allows Heatran to be pretty malleable in how you can build it. You can invest in speed and special attack and go aggressive with it, or invest more in the defenses. This well-rounded stat distribution gives it variety in how it can be used. Heatran also has a very good move pool. Stealth Rock has been a staple on it, and it's a solid rock setter that is aggressive. Taunt is great to deny rocks from enemies and to do a bit of stall breaking, denying healing, etc. Lava Plume is nice on the more defensive sets to fish for burns, and Heatran also has the signature move Magma Storm, which is great. It is 100 power, 75 accuracy, and a trapping effect. And this can be great to actually trap special walls, because with Magma Storm, they can't switch out, and then with Taunt, they can't even status you or heal. So then you can slowly chip them down and wear them out of their resources and even defeat them. So Heatran is this nice combination of defensively and offensively potent. It makes progress, and yet it also feels balanced because of its times for ground weakness, fighting weakness, water weakness. It has these common weaknesses, and yet it also has enough resistances to defensively check plenty of things. So it's functional, but also manageable. It's fast for what it is, but not too fast. 77 speed isn't crazy or anything. It's versatile. It's just a great competitive Pokemon that has a nice balance between feeling really consistently good and always getting value in every game, but also not being overwhelming or anything. Being easy to manage if you want to. I really enjoy Heatran. I think Heatran deserves a lot of respect for how consistent it is. Plenty of Gen 4 OU Pokemon are no longer any good. Heatran's clinging on. Heatran persists. Up next is Gouging Fire, the first Ubers ranked Pokemon here. This is a Gen 9 Pokemon, a past Paradox form of Entei that was so effective as a physical boost sweeper that they had to ban the thing. Gouging Fire was dominant for many reasons. I mean, first of all, the most straightforward way to use this is on Sun teams, with its ability Photosynthesis, granting a boost to its highest stat in the Sun, as well as being a Fire type. It's a no-brainer. You chuck it on a Sun team, boost its attack, and click Heat Crash in the Sun or Flare Blitz or whatever. This is just dealing big damage, and that was a great way to use it. But even outside of Sun teams, Gouging Fire was an incredibly effective Dragon Dance sweeper. Much like Mega Charizard X, this Fire Dragon typing is really well suited to the role, especially in a world where there's no Toxic. That's actually a big deal in Gen 9. Not a lot of things can actually status this or stop it from setting up because of its burn immunity and neutrality to Scald, and all the great resistances that come with this typing as well. So Dragon Dancing up is very effective for this, and it feels so self-sufficient. Plus, the issue of rock weakness is patched up by heavy duty boots, which is one item option on it. Part of what made this guy so broken was its diversity and different ways it could be used, because it would run boots, but it would also run Lumberry to counteract the people Thunder Waving and Toxing it, the few that could. It would run Booster Energy for the stat boost, because that does synergize with Photosynthesis. There was also variety in its different moveset options, because boy does this have a vast move pool. Some people run a breaking swipe on this. Even though it's a weak attack, it has a 100% attack lowering chance, allows it to actually win a lot of 1v1s by lowering enemy attack. Heat Crash and Earthquake are great. You can also heal with Morning Sun, and if you want, you can run Terra Blast to fill out coverage. Defensive Terrestrialization pushed this guy further, allowing it to live incoming hits from super effective moves and Dragon Dance up. It's a common theme in Gen 9. Gouging Fire was particularly great at that. This is one of many incredibly powerful boost sweepers in Gen 9, but noteworthy as a Photosynthesis with Fire type that just felt so solid. I mean, it's so bulky. 105 HP is so great, 121 defense, 93 special defense, and then its offensive stats aren't even that bad either. 91 speed is really great considering. You Dragon Dance up and you're off to the races. 115 attack is not that amazing by Gen 9 standards, but everything else about Gouging Fire is so good that was fine enough for this to just be such an effective Dragon Dance sweeper that could so consistently set up and just sweep teams. Gouging Fire has been panned by critics worldwide for simply being Entei with a big hat on. This is considered uncreative and stupid. And I'm realizing there's just a lot of negativity in the community. I mean, people are insulting Gouging Fire and Iron Jugulus and people like Pyroar. I mean, who's saying these things? Who's saying things like this and getting away with it? I like the hat on the Gouging Fire. It's very sharp looking. He looks handsome. He's looking good in my eyes, and I need you to be quiet and leave him be. Because why can't you put Entei and give him a hat and give Raikou a longer neck and then just say that that's a new Pokemon? You can if you want. They don't have much time to make the games. Take Forret and give him a jacket or something, and that is a new Pokemon. Just save time, and we will all enjoy Pokemon sooner if they can make the games quicker by putting a hat on Entei. Did you ever think of that? No, you didn't, because you have a simple-minded worldview. A fella like you, who would call Gouging Fire stupid. Come on. Up next is Reshiram, Box Legendario of Pokemon Black version. Being a Box Legendary means you're going to have very overturned stats, and that's exactly the case with Reshiram, who has no lower than 90 speed as its lowest stat, and 150 special attack, great special defense, great HP, even a good mixed attacking physical stat of 120. These are very well rounded. Now, Reshiram is known as one of the weaker Box Legendaries in the series, and that's unfortunately true. Reshiram is not actually used very much in Ubers compared to other options. Even when it came out, it wasn't that popular in Gen 5 Ubers. They've attempted to give it some stuff. It has Dragon Dance now, which is interesting. Boots is good for it. Regrettably though, Reshiram is stuck between two worlds. It's not quite good enough for the Legendarios, but too powerful for the simpletons. But still, Reshiram is a godlike being above such simpletons as Blacephalon and Cinderace. These are mere animals and clowns, whereas this is a big dragon who is more powerful. Up next is Mega Blaziken, who was a Mega Evolution ranked in Ubers in Gen 6 and 7. One of the most powerful in the game. Mega Blaziken is pretty much the same Pokemon as its base form, but with higher stats. It has the same ability, same typing, same moveset, everything. But it has 160 attack now, 130 special attack, higher speed, and everything Blaziken does, Mega Blaziken can also do. Speed Boost is an extraordinary ability that Synergizes with Swords Dance to create an incredibly fastly ramping boost sweeper that, especially alongside Protect to gather more speed boosts, can quickly outrun everything in existence and destroy them with the beautiful stab combo of High Jump, Kick, and Flare Blitz. But you know who else can do the very same exact thing is Base Form Blaziken, who is the next Pokemon on the list, and is superior to normal Blaziken because it has a free item slot and doesn't consume the Mega slot. Yes, even though the stats are far worse on Base Form Blaziken, to run Mega Blaziken in Ubers is a big sacrifice of what could be like a Mega Salamence, or a Mega Mewtwo, or a Mega Lucario, or some better Mega than that. Mega Blaziken could just be a normal Blaziken and be nearly as good. Still very threatening to much of the metagame, but not consuming that Mega slot. And with a Life Orb equipped, damage output is similar anyway, isn't it? With the damage increase that comes with that. Now, Blaziken is a Pokemon that since Gen 5 was Ubers for many years in a row, but that did stop in Gen 8 as more Pokemon came into existence that could handle it and the meta slowed down more towards a balance. Style in Gen 8 as well, felt like teams were more equipped to handle Blaziken there. And in Gen 9, Blaziken still remains UUBL ranked, as it was in Gen 8, struggling a little bit to compete with the insane boost sweepers of modern times. Which is kind of funny when Blaziken's the original insane boost sweeper. But despite that, I still think you give Blaziken and Mega Blaziken credit for their Ubers ranking and their insane presence in the earlier games, which is absolutely commendable and indicative of serious combat prowess. Up next is Volcarona, and this doesn't feel right, does it? Volcarona, a mere bug above Legendarios and stuff. But I think with how powerful Volcarona got in Gen 9, this felt right looking at the list. Maybe I'm crazy. But Volcarona really skyrocketed to the forefront in Gen 9. I mean, the Pokemon's always been very, very good and borderline broken in the past as just an unmatched special sweeper introduced back in Gen 5. It has an incredible special attack set of 135, really solid bulk, 100 base speed, and the signature Quiver Dance at the time, which raises special attack, special defense, and speed by 1. Few Pokemon can ramp up to the point of indestructibility and team sweeping like Volcarona can. But in Gen 5, at least, it was vulnerable to Stealth Rock, and it couldn't change its damn type to anything it pleases. Ever since Gen 8, when it got heavy-duty boots to patch up the damn rock weakness, and Gen 9 introducing Terastallization pushed Volcarona to another level, turning it into, honestly, I think an even better boost sweeper than Gouging Fire and a more frightening Pokemon than Ogerpon Hearthflame for most teams, with the Quiver Dance just allowing you to ramp up so quickly, tear teams apart, and Volcarona is a more versatile Pokemon than Ogerpon Hearthflame and Gouging Fire. It can be a Will-O-Wisp, Morning Sun, Terra Water or Terra Fairy, bulky Quiver Dance set. You can run Terra Grass and have Stab Giga Drain for coverage. You can run Terra Blast and have any type ever. And that's so significant on Volcarona, who benefits so greatly from that, allowing it to defeat like Heatran and Skeledirge, depending on the Terra type. Terra Fairy can even be good. I mean, Volcarona has been banned in Gen 9 for a while, but it's easy to forget just how ridiculous this fella was. I haven't even mentioned, by the way, that it has Flame Body, so while you're attacking it, you're literally probably going to get burned. In a lot of different cases, you're going to get burned, and that just ruins you. While you're trying to take out the universe-ending threat that is boosting up with nothing you can do about it. Flame Body is just icing on the cake that makes you want to cry and give up, doesn't it? I think Volcarona is just insane, and it still feels wrong to rank it this high, but I think it's the truth. Up next is Chi-Yu, a new Fire-type legendary introduced in Gen 9, who was banned pretty damn early on in Gen 9, only legal for a brief time. Chi-Yu is a new Dark Fire type that achieves some of the highest damage output possible in Pokemon, thanks to its incredible 135 base special attack plus the ability Beads of Ruin, which actually decreases the enemy's special defense stat. And a choice specs Chi-Yu with Terastallization to just increase its stab damage was ridiculously able to even power through the hardest of special walls like Blissey and Ting Lu. It felt like there were no switch-ins to this whatsoever, and it could just ignorantly click its stab moves with zero to do about it. Just the sheer brute force power of this was absurd. The point where you had to run hard counters, and even the hard counters weren't good. It could run Choice Specs was popular, Choice Scarf was popular, Nasty Plot Boots was popular. and you don't know which one it is. You don't know how much damage output you're expected to take, or if they're going to outrun you with Scarf. It was a nightmare to deal with this. It was truly a nightmare. It's one of the most ridiculous Pokemon I've ever experienced in OU. It's almost Dracovish level of absurdity where there was just no response whatsoever to this little fish. The little fish in a big world, and yet the world feels small when you are this powerful. Doesn't it cheer you? Doesn't it? Number 2, the most powerful fire types of all time. Ho-Oh, an iconic legendario all the way back from Gen 2 that is perhaps the most consistent legendary Pokemon of all time. It has been a great choice in Ubers ever since its release, and it seems to only get better and better as the years go by. Ho-Oh has so much going for it. Despite the defensive shortcomings Fire Flying typing have, the ability Regenerator in Gen 5 more than made up for that. This outstanding ability that restores 1/3 of your HP whenever you switch out. This is really the cornerstone of what makes Ho-Oh so great, and what made it so great despite Stealth Rock weakness. Of course, it's a legendary with amazing stats, a massive attack, massive special defense as well, high speed. It has everything you want. Sacred Fire is its signature move, or it was its signature move initially. A 100 power physical attack with a 50% burn chance. An amazing spammable move that is always good to click. It can click Brave Bird and deal amazing damage with that while also recovering from the recoil easily thanks to regen. And in Gen 8, Heavy Duty Boots just buffed this even further indirectly. It was already functional despite rock weakness, but now rock weakness is not even a problem, so it's all upside for Ho-Oh. This Pokemon is just an outstanding combination of defense and offense in one. It feels like it never dies. It sticks around for so long. It is so great at healing and dishing out damage and walling things and doing everything, really. It's just such a great legendary. One of the most metagame defining in Gen 9, so many years after it came out. Most legendaries from that long ago are falling off these days. Like Ho-Oh's own partner Lugia is not that great in Gen 9. Dialga and Palkia from Gen 4 have fallen off quite a bit. But Ho-Oh persists, and Ho-Oh remains excellent. One of the greatest Pokemon of all time. But there's one fire type that outdoes even Ho-Oh, and that is Primal Groudon. This Pokemon only exists in Gen 6 and 7, but it is so unbelievably powerful in those generations. Far more powerful than anything else present that there's no doubt in my mind that this is the strongest fire type to ever exist. Groudon Primal, first of all, has astronomically high stats. I mean, it has a 180 base attack, 160 defense, 150 special attack as well, and its other stats are fine too, considering the outstanding excellence of a 180 base attack. You do have to equip the red orb to become Primal Groudon, but sacrificing the item slot is well worth the unbelievable increase in your stats. Groudon Primal also becomes a fire ground type rather than just a mono ground type, which might sound bad, but now it has the ability Desolate Land, which creates harsh sunlight on the field on switch-in, which has all the normal effects that sun does, except it only exists while Groudon Primal is in, so when it switches out, the sunlight will go away. So it works a bit differently to normal weather, but on top of the benefits that normal sun grants, it also dissipates water moves completely. Water type attacks can't be used in the harsh sunlight. So that makes Primal Groudon effectively immune to water, patching up its major weakness and turning ground fire into an incredibly powerful defensive typing. Primal Groudon can be anything you want. It actually has a really incredible move pool too. Stealth Rock and Roar are great utility. Precipice Blades is its signature ground type attack, a 120 power, 85 accurate, huge ground type nuke. It can be mixed because of its high special attack too. It's got this massive overheat and lava plume. You can run Swords Dance and Rock Polish to turn it into a sweeper. You can run it offensively, defensively, anything. This Pokemon is an auto-include and a must-have on every single Gen 6 and 7 Ubers team. It's that powerful. And it's easily the most incredible fire type ever created, and one of the most powerful Pokemon in general in the whole series. And that does it, folks. Every single fire type ranked in a list. Can you believe it? Forgive me if I sounded a bit delirious here. I am tired as I record, and I'm saying some pure nonsense. Even I don't know what I'm talking about at times. Please forgive me. But I hope that I've at least maintained enough decorum to properly explain the positions of these Pokemon and all that they offer to the world. I believe I have. Let me know down below in the comments if you disagree with any of my placements and your thoughts on these fiery Pokemon. Fire is actually my favorite type in the game. I didn't mention that. I love fire types. There are so many cool ones like Camerupt, Chandelure, Macago, Many of my favorite Pokemon are fire types. I think they tend to have good designs and it's a fun type overall. Good balance of offense and defense, and a good variety of different Pokemon can be fire type, which I appreciate. But what do you think of the fire type? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.